Hey folks, this is Totally and welcome to another game dev stream. Back again working on infinite retries to defeat the Demon Lord, and today we are at about the halfway point of my vacation. As some of you who have been following might already know, but I'll give the rundown. We've been off for the past 2 weeks and we'll be off for another 2. So we've got 4 weeks off from work in which we are trying to basically complete chapter 1 of our game. We've been working on this for a number of years, just trying to get like kind of all of the pieces put together to have like one complete chapter, maybe not fully polished, but in a relatively good and playable state. Yesterday did a stream with Drixie and we did some 3D modeling there. That went well. I feel like I didn't get a ton done on camera. I've been kind of, for the past 3 days, kind of lamenting the current state of combat, and I think I'm just going to move on. We're just going to say combat's fine for now. We'll get playtest feedback. If people are telling me it's a grind or boring in the early parts before you've unlocked more abilities, I might have to shift and move some narrative points around. But for the time being, it's not worth spending more time on this because I'm not finding an answer. So we're just going to move on. And we're going to continue building the rest of the cutscenes because for the most part, I imagine they'll all be needed. So that all being said, let's just take a look at where we're at. We are currently at the second checkpoint in chapter 1. We've kind of gone through the initial stages. We've kind of run into what is essentially going to be like a mini boss section and failed, and we're unable to fight that. We eventually make our way over to this log bridge that leads into this room where we'll get this checkpoint. And then from this checkpoint, we'll be able to start each new run from this location. If we go back into the previous room, this log will be back up because we're always starting at the same Groundhog Day starting point. Think Majora's Mask, beginning of the day, essentially. So this log will no longer be knocked over. So your only option when you start from this checkpoint will be to go forward into this room, in which we have 2 options. I think technically they're west and east, but I often have the map like this, so I think about them as north and south, but in code they're the other way. But it doesn't matter. The point is that the player has 2 options. They can either go north or south. There is a split in the path. And so from here, although combat is a little lackluster, I would like to start building out the cutscenes that lead you north or south, and the player can kind of make a decision about which way they go. And essentially there'll be different pieces they'll get, and they'll need to go both ways over the course of multiple runs. We were kind of in this room. After you go all the way north, you'll eventually find this like camp where an adventurer is injured. Some of the camps have been, run down, and we're going to find out here that the adventurer we found trapped by a boar in this location is from this party, essentially. And this is the kind of inciting incident where most of the narrative is taking place in this scene. So there, we're going to find these folks. But if we go south down into this area, there's kind of a split, which will lead us over to kind of the entrance to the forest, which is blocked off by a barrier. And I'm thinking this is where I will have the 4th and final adventurer. So we're going to kind of start to get some of that in place today. Hello, Amorphous, and thank you for the 60 months at tier 3 again today, which is, thank you so much, as always. I talked to you in Discord at one point that I'd like to do a stream to celebrate 60 months for you. We're still going to do that at some point, but it might be after we finish up this game dev 4 weeks, basically. But I've still got that on my mind, thinking about it, honestly, most days. Okay, for today though, I want to make a cutscene to kind of indicate to the player that there is a north and south choice to even begin with here. Because when we come into this space, we're often, like all the rooms in our game, going to only see what's in front of us. So the player may not even realize there's 2 different options here, and I'd like to highlight to them that they're making a decision to go north or south, because it'll make the eventual sections more clear. When the player gets to the northern half, they'll essentially be informed they need to go south. And if they go south, they're going to get a similar indication that they need to go north. So whichever way you go first, you'll be directed to go the other way on the following run that you do. So I want to make it clear that when you're told, hey, you need to go south, it's like, oh, it was at that point in the split in the path. So we want to make a cutscene here. So we'll go into our cutscene editor. We want to modify and make a cutscene for J4. I am going to double check to make sure I haven't already made one yet. Does not look it. So we're going to make a J6. And this will be split in path. Split. Excuse me. Split in the path. All right. And then we're going to set default trigger here, and we're going to prioritize that. I don't have dialogue written for this. This is something that I've kind of impromptu decided I wanted to add. So we're going to do our standard just placeholder dialogue, and I will figure out off camera what we actually want here. But I'm going to imagine we're going to do something with the goddess, placeholder, indication, north and south. We'll make this medium, we'll set it to stay open, and we will do, I think, right of center is going to be the right alignment for this one. And then we'll have hero, for now, just do placeholder, response. And I will figure out what this actually is later. We'll do medium, we'll do close all, and we will do top center. Cool. So we'll only need 2 of these. This will be a end of turn cutscene because this will be one that you enter when you step on a tile. So that is the correct type for that. It won't be repeatable and it won't reset on new runs. So that should be all we have to do. We'll hit create. It should generate the folder because we didn't already have one. And we can just put this on an object and have it trigger. So split in the path, that's the actual cutscene itself, and then this is the dialogue asset. So if we go back into the scene, we will need a trigger. We should have some turned off ones. We usually have these around. And I suppose we're going to need to figure out where we're going to place this one. We could do a diagonal. And maybe this first slime is maybe in the way a little bit here. We'll move this one up here and change its pathing. So instead of doing from 4, 8, oh, so it was going back and forth here. I think I'll just change it to go from 3, 8. Oh no, it was going up and down this way. So we're just going to change it so it starts here and goes down to this location. Otherwise, I think that's fine. So we're going to have 2 different points here, 3 different points here, and I need to change all 3 of these to point to our new cutscene. So that'll be this ID here. And then when we hit play, we should be able to walk forward and see that dialogue play out. We'll test that first before we add any more data to this. Oh, unlockable characters with the hydration. I missed that. I will redeem that now. So we need to have it so this map is not auto revealed, because the first time through here it won't spawn everything. Hope you have a good day, Amorphous. I know that the stream times have not lined up for you. I will, you know, that's a good point though. I didn't start the beginning of the stream with the call out for the next week. I think I'm going to try and do another 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 tomorrow. And then we're going to be doing 2 to 4 every night. And then next week we're going to do another art with Drixie stream. She's been really enjoying those. So we might just make that a regular thing moving forward. So Saturdays may be art with Drixie, depending on, you know, interest and whatnot. But then Sundays will always, I think we're going to try and keep this one at the 2 to 4 even once the 4 weeks are over. But for this week coming, we will be doing a stream each day, because honestly I found when I didn't stream these 2 days and took 2 days quote unquote off, I just ended up not getting as much done, and I'd rather do at least 2 hours each day, and I feel like that's gonna keep me from getting burnt out as much. Okay, so that is playing, but I want to add a little bit more to this, I think. Yeah, you know what? We're going to split this dialogue into 2 pieces. We're going to duplicate this array element. And you know what? I probably should use the actual directions that the code uses for this in case it ever matters. So we're going to say this is indicating west. And then we're going to have Goddess indicate east with this one. Then we're going to add an extra advanced dialogue. And I think I want to do a board reveal tile pattern. And we will reveal tile 5,8. Oh, 5,8 for this one is the pattern. The distance will be, let's say, 2. And we want this to be a reasonably large number, and I think we've almost always done 0.1 for these other ones, and it's looked fine. And then we're going to add another board reveal pattern, and we're going to do revealing tile 9, 10, distance to 0.4, 0.1, 0.1. We're going to have hero move as well, I think, is going to make this look a little bit better. So we're going to navigate to tile and facing so that we can control heroes facing once the move is complete. So we're going to have indicate direction. We're going to have hero move and faced west. So hero will move to, let's say 6,8. And then we'll also have hero move on the other section. And we'll have hero move back down to, where are we revealing? 9, 10? Maybe 8,8. Having a hard time visualizing what this is going to look like, but I think it'll be fine. And we'll do north. What if we also have a search cutscene we built, which we can repurpose. So we could trigger the generic player search cutscene, which will just have heroes spin in a circle essentially with a little bit of timing. So we could try doing that as well, so that hero is not sure which way to go. Where does this one end? What is the final facing on this one? The last facing is north. I think I'm okay with that. We might need to make a custom one for this if this is what I want, to have him like looking back and forth and being unsure. I'm going to have this end with hero facing west, I think. Okay, let's just see how that feels. That should be fine. I don't need to update anything here. We should be able to just get an idea of how this feels and then adjust as need be. It might also just be fine to leave this. We don't need to refine every cutscene to its optimal final form. We can let some of them just exist. You know what? I think that's fine. We can use the dialogue to tell us a little bit more of a message there, but I think that's going to work. And again, we might want to replace this with a more specific set of facings, with like hero just looking back and forth this way. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then at this point, hero could move forward and fight this enemy. Get some items. We can come over this way if we want to check out this direction. It's also possible I might want to simplify this room. This might be overly complicated. Like, that room might want to just be a T intersection with no combat in it. Actually, I really like that idea. The problem is I try to keep my exits and entrances consistent as we move through these. So, like, this room exits here and enters on this one. So if I move this exit to be, say, somewhere here, so it was just a simple T, then I'd want to shift this one over here as well. So it kind of makes me have to modify two maps. The other option is we just shift this map so that it's going north-south here, but then it does curve and still connect to this location. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways we could do it. I think I'm going to have a think on this, but I might be worth revisiting this map. Yeah, mixed feelings. Okay, cool. So then if we go up this way, currently what do we have? We have a mini slime, I believe. Yeah, a mini slime and a green larger slime here protecting this treasure chest, which is missing a reference. Why does this not actually show the chest here? This should be a steel chest. Decor, steel chest. Interesting. Yeah, it is not spawning that. Let's just try moving it. No. That does not seem to be working, but I'm pretty sure we saw that it was actually there, so I could walk in here and double check. Not the biggest deal. But yeah, this is just a little walkway into kind of a clearing. Yeah, and the chest is spawning. It's just not visually showing up when we're editing the map. Okay. That charge bar is filling too quickly. We're going to take a small detour here and try and figure that out. We added a little bit of code yesterday to fix an issue, and I feel like it's causing problems. Yeah, it looks like we're not getting into this anymore. It used to be that we would check if the player doesn't have a plan, and if there were no solo abilities, then we would add a delay. But this was causing some extra delays when there was multiple enemies on the map, where we would have this delay plus the amount of time it took the enemy to walk somewhere. So I thought I was being smart by making it so if we have no plans, then we add the delay so that there's a little bit of timing for the player to see the fill bar above the player's head as they're charging up their action. But I guess we never have zero plans? Okay, we don't want this breakpoint. And in fact, I don't think we want the other one yet either. We're going to want to put that back, though, as soon as we perform an attack. So we put this breakpoint back here. and then attack. Okay. This is probably us doing the initial ability. Yep, so this is performing the sword swing. What is this one? This is the slime turning and performing an AI ability. The AI is not attacking right now. Interesting. Is this generating plans for AIs even though... Yeah, so there's only one visible right now. When it comes into here, it's getting a plan of attack, which is the wait, so it shouldn't do anything other than wait. It won't hopefully... Oh, when it performs a wait turn, the wait turn gets added to the list. So, okay, so in this situation, we only have one plan, which is the AI doing a wait. But I'm guessing that wait doesn't have... It doesn't even have any sequence steps associated with it. It's literally... Oh, that's because it doesn't generate anything until the moment it actually goes to perform it. Okay, so what is the wait sequence step then for an AI? What is an AI doing when it waits? If we get rid of all these breakpoints. Actually, I'm going to go look up the wait prefab. Yeah, it does nothing. Interesting. Okay. If we add a delay to this, then technically the game will wait for the amount of time that the AI plans, but that's okay, so this is not... This fix isn't gonna work. I need some more complicated logic. Honestly, I should probably rewrite this thing. We can see how much like commented out code there is in here already. This whole setup for how we perform a turn has gotten more and more abstract and away from the original design as I've kind of modified it, and it probably should be re-looked at and rethought about. The whole point though is that we're trying to make it so that whenever the AI and the player take turns at the same time, we try and mash as much of it to happen simultaneously on the screen as possible, so the player doesn't have to wait and watch the AIs just perform actions, essentially. Okay. It's not breaking anything right now. It just means that, like, we charge the charge bar faster than I intend, making it so that the player may have a harder time noticing how much actions are costing. It doesn't hurt that badly, though. There's at least a little bit of a delay. Yeah, I want some amount of delay when this bar charges, because otherwise it's just basically instant. Okay, for today that's fine. We're just gonna have combat be a little faster. And like maybe that could be a gameplay setting. Like in our options menu, like do you want the charge bar to have a delay? Maybe you turn combat speed up to fast and then it like gets rid of this. But by default, I definitely want to have this delay here. I think I'm just gonna need to figure out if any of the AI plans are actually doing anything. Are they moving? If they're just waiting, then I probably want to add the delay. But if at least one AI is planning to move, then we don't want to add the delay because the move will kind of serve as kind of the turn, essentially, allowing the player to see the charge bar fill. Okay, So bugs galore. Let's see if we can let's make sure we document it. We're not going to fix it right now, but I want to make sure that I'm tracking all this stuff so I don't lose any of it when I'm reviewing off camera the things that I have to do. So we're going to add this to the section over here, which is all related to, honestly, combat being broken in different ways. So we're going to come into here. We're going to say, what is this? Charge bar delay not working correctly. It's probably honestly good enough. I'll remember from the image. This one was not grouped either. Okay. Cool. Bug documented. I want to move on though, and I want to look at some more cutscenes. We were working in here yesterday. Let's see if we can get this one working. I believe we had set this up so if you do the interaction, it should play out the dialogue. Oh no, it broke. Okay, yes, I remember. The last thing we ended here was this character, when we do this talk, is failing to find the character to anchor to. And that's because this character isn't actually an NPC. This is actually a prop called Adventurer 003 right now. We need to make some prefabs for these NPCs is what we need to do. So we're going to go into here. We're going to copy this one and we're going to make a Adventurer 002. We're going to make a Adventurer 003. And we're going to make an Adventurer 004. And then each of these will eventually have different animations, and by extension, the animation system is what determines what sprites it ends up using. But for the time being, I wonder if I can get away with using Hero, because Hero has the most animations by far. Wow. When did I set up this to have groupings? Yeah, Hero's animation tree is nuts. I still probably think it's the right call to use Hero for each of these. And then when Drixie gets me the models, we will replace these later. So we'll replace it with this animation and this sprite, and then finally Adventurer 4 will also use Hero for now. This one and this one. Okay. So then we need to come into here and add some NPC spawners. Let's go take a look at G7 where we're spawning Adventurer 001. should be able to copy this, bring it over to here, drag it under the room, and we can change this to Adventurer 002 container. It won't need this required flag. And I believe this is right. I think this was originally 003, but the naming scheme has changed. Me and Drixie ended up deciding on a different naming scheme since I originally set this scene up. And so this will be Adventurer 2 now. We'll rename the game object just for clarity. And then I believe this is Adventurer 4, according to our new naming conventions. Each of these have some placeholder names I'm currently working on in dialogue, but I think I want to have them have generic names for the time being in case we ever change those names. I don't want to have the names baked into the game objects. Okay. Now, we also need to name the prefabs. So if we come into here, we want to copy this and then give this an addressable ID of 2, this an addressable ID of 3, and this an addressable ID of 4. Okay. And then this should now work, and this should now work, and we should no longer need these ones. So we will clear this, and we will clear this. Now, Hero and... or sorry, the Adventurer 2 and 4 need to be in a default animation. I don't really have a way of doing that right now. So I think when we walk in here, they'll just be standing in place. Yeah. These interacts should be renamed talk instead of take. And then the entity ID here is Adventurer 002. I think I need to put this in here for the entity ID because the character name will likely be Takashi, but we likely want to do entity ID for the actual object in the scene. It's possible I should also just replace all of the character ID stuff to also be a generic ID. Still failing to find the location. Ah, it's trying to find the base face for these. Okay, maybe we do rename these. And then where do we decide, or where do we have the art for the portraits? It's not in dungeon. I think it's above this section, past the character stuff, in the character portraits. Okay. So then how do we... Is one of these just named... Yeah, this is Adventurer 001. And we have a couple of other ones. that Drixie was kind of just playing around with generic NPCs. So we can just use these. Yeah, this system needs a rework as well. I think, if I'm understanding correctly, this is going to be base face, but I think Drixie wanted me to scrap this idea. Originally, I was thinking we could save a bit of memory by having the faces broken out from the actual like background, so that we could just like have this base face always render, but then have the actual emotion be its own separate piece. But I think that ended up just causing more issues in the long run. We want this to be Adventurer 3. And Adventurer 3. Okay. So at some point I think we might just replace the idea of a base face with just a single image for each emotion. Okay, so I think that should set these up correctly. So it should have addressables for each of these to use. And now it won't complain about not being able to find the art asset to show in the dialog box. Perfect. Okay. New tech we need here. We need to be able to spawn an NPC with a specific animation. So we're going to do public. Oh, how do we actually do that? Because we do this via... I think we do it via parameter name is going to be the easiest. Default animation anim parameter string. Okay. And then this gets used somewhere, I assume, to spawn things. Going to be in the NPC manager. It's going to spawn NPCs. And it will initialize the NPC passing in the spawner. Somewhere in here we're doing animation. We're grabbing the animation component. We should be able to do set parameter. And this wants a string ID and then potentially a value for it. So I guess this is as simple as dungeon NPC spawner default anim parameter string. This one can face south. And then I think Adventurer 4 we want to have in the death state. I'm just going to check what happens in here if we go animation, animator, death. Sure, that'll work. So if we just type in death here, it should just have that animation bool be set to true. It did not. Do we see an error? No errors. I wonder if it's a timing issue. Like maybe by the time we get in here... No, that doesn't make sense. Is it using this animation elsewhere? Here, it initializes it. Oh, I need to do this call after the initialization. That's, I think, likely just all that's the issue. Why are we doing this? Is this used in any way? Just the new one I set up, right? Yeah, I think we can just be doing unit.animation, and I don't think this line of code is even needed anymore, actually. We're setting the animation in editor, so we don't need to do a get component on it. Okay. More efficient, and hopefully the line is in a better spot now. Do we see the character actually in the death animation? We do not. Still doesn't work. All right. It's hopeful. It is still in the idle. So one click too far. Let's put a breakpoint here and see what's happening. I'm going to guess something else is calling set parameter after this, like maybe placing a unit sets its animation. But I would imagine once we set the death string to true, something would have to come along and actually set it to false. Okay, so we're getting here. This one is empty, that's fine. This one has the death string, unless I spelt the string name wrong. No, it found that it's a bool. It's going to set that bool to true on the animator, and we're going to double check the animator has the correct animation set up. Yeah, runtime controller has been set correctly. Okay, so this should be setting the animator to have the death parameter. But it is not. Okay. So something else is modifying this. Something else must be modifying this. Because the bool one shouldn't get modified. Like a trigger will auto turn itself off, but a bool should remain true indefinitely. We can also do a breakpoint inside of the set parameter function call to see if something else is coming in from that as well. Welcome in, Keith G. It's going okay today. We're continuing to work towards completing Chapter 1 and adding more cutscenes. Honestly, the story of the last 2 weeks. Just more cutscenes. Okay, so this is adding this. We know that this is working. We know that it's setting the bool to true. Okay, so this is a different one, setting it to walk. This is initiate manual animation. This is coming as part of the walk system. We can't see where it's coming from, but some sequence step is triggering this. In here. And that's setting our animator bool to walk. And if death was the one that was being set, I think you can only have one bool operate on at the same time, so that may be turning it off. I don't know if that's true though. But we're definitely setting the movement. So let's see if we can track down where the movement's coming from. For context, we're currently trying to see if we can have this NPC start in a specific animation, and we're trying to just add a default animation to the init call, but it looks like after we call the default animation, it's likely getting overwritten. I'm gonna just try moving this down to the bottom of this init call, because it's possible the walk stuff is coming here. I said this a moment ago. Maybe I just trust my instincts. Because when we set this tile, do we do any animation stuff? We do animation for the tile itself, the slide in and out. But do we do any animations on the player? Current tile? No. We set the direction facing. Let's just see if modifying the order of those calls fixes it. Like maybe it is, even though I can't see it, it feels like something inside of place could be calling the animation. Nothing. Death. Okay, so death is still happening first. Yeah, and then we're getting this walk call. Where is this coming from? We added a breakpoint in here inside of the traversal. So where this is coming from, it's not from... It's not from the regular movement. Ah, it's coming from here. From an off-grid move. So if we work our way backwards, it's going to be this location. This is the one problem with my sequence step system. Although it gives me a lot of power and flexibility so that anything can basically be executed at any time in my sequences, because it's run primarily off of coroutines, it means that debugging it can be a bit of a pain for sure. Because there's a lot of coroutines, which means there is not a good call stack to work off of. Okay, so this is setting the parameters. Okay, so then here, shoot, we're calling move to, but again, we don't have a good call from the sequence. So where is this being used? This is being used as part of a movement ability effect. So we could put a breakpoint in here to see if this is where that call is coming from. Looks like the other location where this is used is... Oh, just that is the only location. Unless it's coming from a cutscene, which I doubt. That's a much better call stack. All right. Yeah, so when we call place, we queue a tile response. This is for the player entering into the scene, but this shouldn't be happening for the other characters, I wouldn't think. This is for the player still. This is still for the player. This is setting the initial animations that I've set up. Maybe all of these additional settings are all for Hero walking into the scene. Yeah, that is the case. Okay, so then we're not calling walk on these two characters. Only Hero gets that information. So then why does this one's animator not receive the bool? We're clearly setting that parameter. Oh, okay, well, I didn't save. That's probably an issue number one. But the other potential issue is when we do this initialization, no, there's no runtime stuff happening here. There is a chance that we can initialize based off the character ID. Where's that character ID coming from? Okay, it's always null. We never use that character ID anymore. We just embed the animation directly in the prefab, which saves me time and honestly load cycles. So oh, they're all using hero, right? So in order to be able to tell whether or not this is even working, we'd need different controllers, because actually it could still be that these are getting walk calls. What if we look at the animator? Can we do that? Can we do... No, we're not going to be fast enough. There's not a great way of selecting the animator to see what its current state is, to see whether or not this tick box is being set. Oh man, this is tricky. I guess what we could do is we could replace Adventurer 4 with the Goddess, because the Goddess does have a death animation. So we could check to see whether or not that specific character is getting walk set just by making it have a different character. So we come in here, and instead of loading in Adventurer Container 04, if we use the Goddess's animation controller, that should give us more information while we're debugging. So if we just do Goddess Container as the addressable we want to load here, and put that in there, the Goddess Container is, just to really make sure, is using a controller of Goddess animation formatted. So we should be able to see when debugging when that one's being modified specifically. This is the Goddess animation controller. And it is getting called. Interesting. Oh, minimized too many times. Oh, I skipped over the part I wanted. Oh, frustrating. This should have been a quick thing. Like, I feel like adding a default spawn for these shouldn't have been this crazy. Or, sorry, default animations on spawn. Okay, so this is Adventurer 4 being placed. It's going to do the unit place call. It's going to do a bit of logic to find the tile that we want to place the unit on. That's fine, but then when we get into the actual place call, when we set current tile, that's not doing anything special. When we do plan, that's not doing anything special. This is going to try and queue responses if there are any. This tile shouldn't have any responses, though, I don't think. Yeah, it has no responses that it should be queuing against. So this is the player hitting the move to. Wait a second. No, this is wrong. The watch is giving me the wrong information. Yeah, not in scope. Okay. So this is still hero inside of this traversal. This is the walk being set. Yeah, this is still hero. This is still hero. Still hero. Okay, so yeah, 100%. 100% it is not getting stomped by something. It is just that this character, when we say death as the parameter, when we are loading in, there is some sort of weird timing issue where the animator doesn't take that parameter immediately. And the animation should be initialized. It should have the runtime controller all set up correctly. And we should be able to call set parameter on it. Purely out of curiosity, if we start a coroutine and just wait a moment, I want to find an example of how to do this. Perfect. Good enough. Yield, return, new, wait for, let's even just try end of frame. Like, this sounds familiar. It feels like there's something I remember about like the animator needing to the end of the frame before it would allow some data to be modified. Why does that sound so familiar? I'm gonna get past all these breakpoints. I just want to see the end result. Is the character... No, death is not set. Oh, it couldn't even create the coroutine because the game object is inactive at that moment. Wait, the game object's inactive at that moment. Oh, because the tiles haven't been revealed? Maybe that's why? Maybe if we do animator.set parameter and the game object isn't active yet, it doesn't work? If we just wait a second. What if we just wait a second? The entity manager always exists by the time we would get here. So if we just use the entity manager, which is active, its mono behavior will be a valid one to start a coroutine from. Yeah. So if we don't do it instantly, but we do a wait, and we start the coroutine from a game object that's actually active, it looks like that solves our problem. This is such a hacky way of doing it, but I guess the correct way would be on tile reveal. Yeah, a single frame isn't enough time. Do we know... Interesting. Maybe then the correct way to do this is similar to the guard cutscene where we have them walk into the scene, because this has a ability ID for the transition. And when this tile loads in, it plays this ability on that unit. So maybe the way we should be doing this is placing a spawn only ability . Yeah, maybe that's the correct path here. Is if we want to have a special animation this starts in, it shouldn't be done at initialization time. It should be done on tile reveal. And it should be done via an ability. I don't think it needs to be a transition tile though, because this is essentially just adding an on-enter ability, but we can add on-enter abilities from the ability tile component. Yeah. So we can just come into here, go into cutscenes, add this one, call this initial animation. This initial animation can share its position here. This is a cutscene tile. What is the difference between that and an ability tile? Basically doesn't have extra information about the trigger name. We only get the ability ID. Okay, so actually I think this can get away with just being an ability tile, and we just need to make a new type of ability. So instead of immediate cutscene, we can make a new one. This is technically being built off of cutscene base, but I think that's fine. We can just call this initial animation. This does not do what I want. Parameter? Animation parameter ability effect. Okay. So we want this to target the... We want to have this target the target, so the unit that will be on this tile. And we want to give it a parameter name of death. We want it to be of type bool, and we want to set that value. We don't want to give it a duration or anything, I don't believe. And then we can just make sure that initial animation has an addressable ID. Initial animation cutscene. Honestly, this can just be called initial animation. And it probably shouldn't be in the cutscene folder. And it probably should just be an ability. Yeah, is there a way to break the parent value from this? If we go into prefabs... Can I get rid of the root from a... I've not really worked with variant prefabs that much. Interesting. Nope, can't just delete the reference. And I guess technically this isn't even an initial animation. It's initial animation death. Because it's only able to do one thing. We can't actually give it a parameter for the animation we want. And then we give this initial... This still feels wrong, the way that I'm setting this up. Like, maybe this should be part of, like, the animations, like, the ability script system we were working on with the boar a while ago, so that the boar could do, like, attacks outside of combat, essentially. But let's see if this works. So now the character should spawn. It should hopefully hit this ability effect. It has no target type. So we might want just a default ability effect target, which I think just says it has to target something that is alive. I don't even know if that's going to work in this situation. What does the cutscene version do? Oh, that's specific to the ability itself. Okay, so we can't use that one. What are some other types of targeting? We could do spawn only. That actually might be the right call in this situation. We only want this to affect a unit that's spawning in and being placed on this tile for the first time. The question is, what's causing that to happen? Because we still have the original setup. So if we clear this, does the ability get triggered? Yes. Okay, so I think for now, this is probably the right setup. We're going to do it via an ability and not via a default parameter. But I think long term, we're going to want some sort of like more elaborate system for this. Okay. And then this should be enough for this cutscene. There's a lot of polish I want to add in here. Like, we want to have this, obviously, these be two different characters that Trixie's working on currently. And we want to have some more animations in here of, like, the other adventurer that's standing there, like, trying to do, like, some sort of, you know, healing, stopping the blood type animation. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but I would assume, like, kneeling and, you know, trying to keep the blood loss at a minimum. Looks like the animation did not work on reveal though. So it works if we load the map directly. But does not work if we reveal the tile. Interesting. I don't want to spend too much more time on this, to be honest, but we're going to do a quick check and see when does this even get triggered. I would think it should be happening the moment that the tile is revealed. But maybe it's happening immediately on scene load. Oh yeah. Which character is this affecting though? Yeah, Goddess Container. So it's happening immediately. And trying to apply that animation effect. But we're probably running into the same problem where because the unit is turned off, it doesn't work. Yeah, okay. I'm going to revisit this. I think this needs some more elaborate thought on how we're going to control this. I thought this would be quick, but honestly, good research to realize that there's going to need to be a more complicated system for setting up this initial state of this cutscene. Yeah, because we haven't really ever had the need for NPCs to spawn in other than just like facing a specific direction in idle. So and the ability script system we wrote actually only works for AI units right now, not NPCs, but I've been wondering about combining them for a while. Like maybe NPCs are just AI units that are set to an alliance type of neutral so that they don't fight the player. Yeah, okay. So this cutscene exists, it's triggerable, it's not in even close to a like polished state. I'm gonna move on though. There's more cutscenes to build. We're just gonna keep our hands busy. We're gonna keep building stuff because there's a lot of content to create. And we will loop back to some of this more polishy items later, but I want to get everything in place so it's you can play all the way through it even if things aren't necessarily in a perfect setup. Let's do this. Now over here, I do have some more dialogue written for this area, I believe. I mean, technically this can exist in any location. Where's our cutscene folder? We currently have generic. We also have woods. And then most of these have a room associated with them. Yeah, I'm going to make this next cutscene have a room of generic, because we may move this one around. This is just kind of like a walk and talk that I would like to work on. It's just going to be called time loop question. Okay, and then we will set the default trigger to that. This will not be repeatable or resetting on new runs. It will be a one-time conversation. For now, we're going to build it in J7, but it may end up getting moved to somewhere else. We're going to have this be hero. We're going to do this as a bottom center for now. And then this is mostly just hero asking questions about, like, how does this whole time loop thing work? And I just think it's an interesting kind of dialogue, and I don't have... Oh, I'm mixing this up. No, this one is for the Goddess Realm. This is meant to be a return conversation. Okay, sorry, wrong spot. So we want this one to go into Goddess Realm Chapter 1. I was getting this confused with another cutscene, which I guess we can build after this one. But this one is going to be on return to the Goddess Realm. And this can be trigger name. Goddess Realm, it will be an intro type, and then we'll just make sure it's a lower number, because this is not part of the main story. It's just like if you fail a run, and there isn't another cutscene pressing, this is just kind of a filler so that there's a conversation when you return. This is hero. And that changes the positioning too. This is still bottom center for hero. Goddess becomes top center. Actually, it's already fine. We can set all of these to stay open. Stay open. And then bottom center. Then another one with the goddess speaking. Some of these might get trimmed down. Trixie's given me the feedback that sometimes it does feel like there's a bit too much back and forth. But I think I do want to try and get some amount of kind of lore set up in some of these returns after a run. Even if they are pretty straightforward and simple. I can always cut them if I feel like they're not working, but I do want to set them up. Okay, so this is a return to the Goddess Realm, and it has a low priority. I do think I want this to not happen until after we've seen the first timeout, potentially. So because we really want to hammer home the time loop aspect from the first timeout dialogue. And then this is almost like a follow-up to that. So as long as we've done first timeout, this can happen anytime we have a failed loop or a end of run, essentially. Okay, let's create that. And then this one doesn't even need any placement or anything. This can just exist and should trigger on its own at the right time. Not repeatable. Yeah, that all seems good. So then we'll do the one I was thinking of. We'll make this cutscene. This is also a hero goddess back and forth. This one will be 6 dialogues ending with the goddess speaking. And then this one will have, let's start from the top. So this one is meant to be just like a walk and talk. So goddess or hero asking the goddess about what the adventurer remembers versus doesn't remember through these time loops. Again, hammering home some of the narrative. So some of this maybe is a bit repetitive then, but I want to try these and see, because I think that there's going to be a fair amount of combat in some of these sections, and I want to have a little bit of cutscenes kind of break it up occasionally. This one I am going to just label as generic. And we're going to just name this one Memories. So it's just going to be a, maybe that's a better way to name it. We can call this Thoughts. And these are just like little moments that could happen that are maybe anywhere or maybe specific. But for the time being, I'm going to label them as generic. We'll probably have them happen from tiles. They'll be non-repeatable. They won't reset on new runs. And then the only problem is we can't just have them happen anywhere, because the positioning of the anchor is kind of related to where the player is. I am thinking J7 is a good spot for this one. So I think we'll build it around this location, and then if need be, we can change it. Yeah, so then if that's the case, we'll have hero heading down, so bottom center below hero, and then we can do top left, I think, for the goddess on all of these. Okay, and then hero can be, I think bottom center will be fine for all of these. And we're going to have hero always close self, and the goddess can stay open throughout all of this conversation, I think. Is probably the easiest way to handle it. And we just need to make sure that the goddess closes all at the end. All right. Good enough. Create sequence. So yeah, this one is technically going in J7 and could be labeled for that room, but I want the ability to potentially move these around as I see fit, so we're going to just put it in this Thoughts folder instead. Now, I do want to add some movement, so we will do a quick setup. We'll also do the actual placement of this cutscene, so we'll have this cutscene trigger anywhere along these 2 tiles. We'll call this Memories. And we'll put Thoughts in front of it, just so it's a little larger and is going to be easier to select, honestly. Okay. Place this one here. And place this one here. And then from this position, we can have hero ask this question, and then have a cutscene move to tile and facing. We'll have hero move to 5, 12. And make sure we're facing south. We can make this non-blocking. Actually, I'll add it here. And then I'm going to do one more at the bottom at this location. Wrong spot. We put this here. And we'll have hero move down to like 814 and look west. I'm gonna go north, so hero's just like looking at a tree. I don't know what I'm doing with this cutscene, but I feel like it's just like I want there to be movement in between some of this dialogue. We can delete all breakpoints at this point, I believe. And also we can just disconnect the debugger. Let's give that a try. Some positioning issues, but otherwise fine. We also need to have this scene have a default preset. We'll go with post checkpoint. So this will be basically right after you've gotten to this location for the first time, which is probably a reasonable setup for this room in particular. I feel like I need almost like a stone skipping animation or something just to kind of like make this feel more just more, I don't know. More casual, I guess, is the way I'd like to make this. There's some weird timing issues here. I feel like I need another sequence step in some of these spots. because we're going to have a conversation, a response, a follow-up point, and then have hero just move a little bit to 512, wait a little bit, and then move down. But we want to have this dialogue with the goddess come in instantly, but not wait for it, I think. But we don't want hero to perform this dialogue until this is over. So I guess we put this to be blocking is the way we solve that. Actually, we set all these to be blocking. So we have this be instantaneous, but then we have these be waiting. Let's try that. Again, these things don't need to be perfect, just need to build them. Okay. I think that's good enough for now. Okay, so that's another cutscene done. What else do I have? Yeah, we get into some pretty complicated setups now. I probably should start working on these. I also think I want to put another ability down here. How are we doing on time? Do I have time to... Yeah, I suppose we do. Alright, so let's look at... I've been feeling combat is not quite working the way I want, and I feel like for this section where you're going north and south, I want to add something to the player's current toolkit. So it can be fine and like simple here, but I want to quickly give the player a third ability, and I think I want that to be a ranged attack. And I think I want that ranged attack to be like a magic wand that lets the player do elemental type attacks, essentially. So I think I want to create a new ability. We currently have shoot. Which I have not tested in a long time. Does this have a skill prefab associated with it? We come into here and we take a look. Shoot does have data. It looks like the template it's using is out of date. So some of this information is bad, but it is set up. What happens if we come into here, combat test, and we just add shoot? Does it still just work? How does it currently function? So it is still working. How does it work when I have multiple targets? Like here I have 2 different targets I have in range. Okay, it just selects which one I want to hit. Okay, that's actually better than I thought it was going to be. But it auto targets if I only have 1 in range. Yeah, so we could just make this into our staff ability, I think. And I just need to figure out where I'm going to place it. So we want, similar to what we did for the mace and the sword. We want to have this have its own setup. Just also realizing we never actually set up the Omni Weapon Absorb for the hammer. Oh, have I not? There's a prefab associated with this, but I don't see animations. Global, slice, and animate props. Create props. If we come into here, it looks like it's failing to set up the Omni Weapon Absorb. Yeah, the Omni Weapon didn't have its animation setup. Okay, I'll do that later. Okay, but I want to just steal, don't save, the sword interactable, I think. And we essentially want to find a place to put this for the wand. Yeah, this all looks wrong. Let's delete that. Does this need... It has the global. Does it need to just populate? It's possible it needs to populate. Drag this in. Drag that into there. Oh no, wrong way. Whoa. drag the reference into this script. No, that's broken. It is failing to find some content. Yeah, it's getting very confused. Yeah, it currently just has the sword. Just global and forest. This one doesn't even have as many props set up in it. Interesting. Yeah, as soon as I drag this in, it completely gets messed up. Okay, so these cutscenes, it looks like inside of the actual cutscene itself is where we actually unlock the ability. So if we look at G8 sword pickup. Yeah, okay. So I need to decide where I'm putting this wand. If it's in this room, I need to build a cutscene for the actual pickup in here that will grant you the shoot ability. The question is it here or is it over here? Could also be over this spot, in this spot. I'm not sure where, but I just somewhere to the south, I want to have the wand. Maybe it's actually in this room. Copy, paste. Yeah, you know what? I think I like the idea of the wand getting picked up here and having it be a bit of a bottleneck so that you can't skip it. Okay. We can always rename and move stuff if we need to as well. So we'll make a new cutscene. We'll call this Woods J8. Wand, or no, staff, I think is going to be easier. Staff pickup. Set that as the default trigger. For now, let's just have no dialogue here. This can have no response type because it should be an interact. It can be priority 999, and then we can just create that. We can grab this piece of information, put that in here as the trigger name. We can also make that the required flag here. And we also, I think, want to modify this to have a walkable tile type. What is it called? There's a script we need to apply here. Pathing? Tile override. If this is completed, we set this to walkable. Otherwise, by default, it will be a wall. Cool. And then in the sword pickup, do we have to write a call? Yeah, adjust tile types. So we have to modify the tile as well, so that in this scene it's immediately changed. So we'll do that first. I don't know where that's going to be. Probably board, adjust tile types. So we're going to adjust tile 10.9 to be walkable. We will unlock backend unlockability. We will unlock shoot. What else do we need to do? We want to play the Omni Weapon Absorb animation Anim 1. Yeah, there's a whole series of steps here. Can we build this into a generic sequence step? Folder. No? What did I click on? Folder. Generic. We can turn this into... Yeah. I think we can copy and paste like this. And we can call this Omni Weapon Absorb. We can get rid of all of this content. The only thing we care about is modifying, and we don't care about adjusting the walkability, but we do want to wait for animation complete. Interestingly, this part needs to be specific as well. Okay, so I don't know if we can make this generic. We'd need to have some sort of parameter system for our generic triggers, and I don't currently have something like that set up, and it would be a huge pain. So I think we will just still manually build this, but these are the pieces we need. So we'll lock this, go over back to staff pickup, and then we'll just manually add these. So we need a animation parameter. We'll trigger this on Omni Weapon Absorb, Anim 1, trigger, bool. Everything else can be ticked off, it looks like. And then animation, wait on animation event. Omni Weapon Absorb, wait for the pause animation. We can do the base set active. Drixie with the hydrate, appreciate it. Redeeming that. We're also close to being done with the stream, it looks like, as well. We'll be back in 2 hours or so, but let me just finish this cutscene at the very least. So we want to do a set active. There's the one I'm looking for. And we're going to set active for the prop sword pickup. We can rename it to prop pickup. Yeah. It doesn't really matter that much, honestly. And wait on animation event. Wait for Omni Weapon animation complete. So this should allow us to interact, unlock our chute, adjust the walkability, and then make the absorb happen. Now this will need to be modified to be a staff absorb animation at some point, but for now we can continue to use the sword one. And this obviously will need to have this prop changed as well. So here, this needs to do staff pickup we've done. This all looks fine. This is the right entity ID. Yeah, I think this is good. There is some sort of issue with the prop indexes. Oh, I think that's still to do with this issue. We'll try one more time real quick to see if we can modify this. But if we come in here, copy it just to make sure that we don't lose it. Minimize this. And then drag the props in here. Does it break still? Somewhat. One of the props is not being set correctly. This becomes exit. The Omni weapon should be in here. So if we change this back to cutscenes, Omni weapon absorb. Okay, that should be good. It still has the same entity ID and everything. So let's try entering into the scene and picking up this weapon. Stick to this side so we don't spawn the slime. Cool. That looks to have worked. Can I try... We don't have debug flags set up for this room yet, so if we give this the checkpoint 2 setup, we should be able to see the ability hopefully being added. Why? Why did you... Everything broke? Why is it not showing these other props? That's such a weird bug. This has worked so many other times in the past, but there must be something about this scene that's different from the other ones, and its prop template, or the temp pass thing, like, because it's the same. This has 114, right? So if I come over into here, I look at this one. This one is referencing the prop setup. This one has 188. If I populate props, does this one break as well? This is 114. Yeah, some of them are broken. I'm not seeing the pebbles. This one's definitely loaded. Yeah, super broken. Okay, I'm gonna look into that off camera. Something is going on, I don't know what it is, but it is like breaking the way our interactable props work. Let's see if we can at least interact with this one more time and have it actually show up in our inventory as a new ability called Shoot. So currently we have slash and bash. We come up to here, we interact. Yeah, and we unlock Shoot, and we can use it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so now we just need to figure out why is it not loading these props? But I'm going to do that after I get some food. So we're going to take a break for 2 hours. We're just working through cutscenes. That's what we're doing. We're just working on cutscenes. Just whether the player goes up or down at the split in the path, we're just working on all the cutscenes related to that. And we'll be back to probably continue part 2 of this, just working through these when we get back at 6 in a little less than 2 hours now. For now, though, this will be Tolhi signing out.